How easy is it for us when we get the things that we want that we forget what we're sacrificing, right? Look at all the reason you're in this room. All of your parents, everybody has invested in your future. All of the coaches have invested in your future. They have sacrificed for you to be here. What are you going to do with that sacrifice? I love the game of baseball, man. I loved it so much. I put my whole identity in the game. I said, if this game goes well, I'm going well. And you guys ever been there? As long as you're performing well, your heart feels good? Anybody like that? Just like me. So my whole identity was in what I was doing. So as long as what I was doing was going good, Lance was going good. But then as soon as things took a little spiral or a little turn, then I would start to think, oh man, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm worthy enough, right? And then fast forward, I go to the University of Minnesota. Then fast forward, I get drafted. I make my dreams come true. I get drafted by the Seattle Mariners, man. Everything's crazy good. Everything's crazy good. I'm on top of the world, right? I sign a paycheck. I get my first truck. I'm like, dang, this is all pretty sweet. And then boom, I get injured. Second year with the Seattle Mariners, I come out, hurt myself with Tommy John. And that was the first time I had to look myself in the mirror and ask myself, who am I beyond the jersey? Who am I without my stat sheet? Because I was going to be out at least 1 year. And then I was out 12 months, and then I was out 24 months, and then I was out 36 months. So you take a kid, all he's ever known is baseball, and you remove the game from him, then you have a real opportunity to figure out who you are inside, what type of person you're going to become, and what type of sacrifices you're willing to make your dreams become a reality when reality just doesn't look that good. And I think sometimes, while we're talking about sacrifice right here, sometimes the circumstances don't look good in your life, but you have the decision to make, what is my mindset going to be? Am I going to finish this thing? Am I really going to continue when things don't look very good for me? Things didn't look very good for me. I had a lot of heart work to do. I had a lot of soul searching to do. I was 21, 22 years old, playing professional baseball, but I couldn't play the game. And luckily in that moment, I got reconnected with my faith. I started to realize there's a much bigger purpose on my life than just the game. But the game is a launching pad to you making a huge difference in somebody else's life. You can use wrestling for the greater good. It doesn't have to use you. You can use what wrestling can bring you, all the success, all the clout. There's people, the better and better you get at something, let me tell you, the more and more people watching you. So for you young ones right here, the better and better that you get, the more people that are going to watch your young soul. And that's an opportunity to be a kind person. That's an opportunity to show light to somebody else. And you get the choice. You get the opportunity. Am I going to show somebody light, or am I going to show somebody darkness? I was up in Holbrook earlier a couple months ago, and Sean was there. There was this kid. I was speaking to middle schoolers, and there was this kid that came up to me afterwards. The whole time, I could tell this was a leader. This was a leader. But there's two kinds of them. There's ones that lead us to darkness and bad decisions. There's one that lead us to light and good decisions. And he was coming up to me. He's chirping me. He's telling me all these things. He's making fun of me. He's making fun of me. He's saying, I can school you here. I can do this. I can do that. And I just asked him. I looked him straight in the eyes. I said, brother, I need you to give me a compliment one time. I need you to encourage me one time, and I'll sit here and wait until you do that. And I said, you're a leader, aren't you? And he said, yeah, I am a leader. That's right. People follow what you do, right? Yeah, I said, that's either going to be a burden or a blessing for everybody that decides to follow you. So for you older kids in the room right now, it's either going to be a burden or a blessing that you're the older kid in the room. For you, how many of you guys got younger siblings, right? So for you, all of you that have younger siblings right now, it's either going to be a burden or a blessing that you're the older sibling. You have a decision to make. Which way am I going to lead my family? Which way am I going to lead my brothers and sisters? Which way are you older kids going to lead this team? That's the choice that you get to make every single day. And I waited for him to give me a compliment and to encourage me. And he finally did. And I said, that's the way that you got to act now, because people are going to follow you. Now you lead them to the light. Y'all with me on that? So I was in the Good Word this morning. And when we're talking about sacrifice, there's this story of Peninnah and Hannah. There's a story of Peninnah and Hannah. And the reason this story is crazy, y'all. I need you to pay attention to this one. When we're talking about sacrifice, Peninnah, she had multiple kids, 6, 7 kids, right? With her husband, Elkanah. And this is back in the biblical days. So he had multiple wives. He had 2 wives. He had Peninnah and he had Hannah, okay? Hannah, she couldn't bear any children. She couldn't have any kids. And that was her deepest, darkest desire, was to have children. Back in the biblical days, that was what it's all was about. Be fruitful and multiply. That was the woman's job, okay? So Peninnah, all she ever does is make fun of Hannah. All she ever does is make fun. You're never going to have a child. You're never going to be his favorite. You're never going to be this. You're never going to be that. Hannah is always being belittled all the time, constantly. And every single year, they would go up to this mountain called Shiloh, and they'd go make sacrifices to the Lord, right? And they'd go make sacrifices. They bring their rams, they bring their goats, and they'd sacrifice the blood of the ram, okay? And every single year, this was a really, really tough time for Hannah, because constantly she would have to go make sacrifices, but she wasn't getting anything in return that she wanted. And this is where it became difficult for her. Hannah, year after year after year after year, Peninnah, 6, 7, 8 kids. Hannah, no kids, can't bear any children. And it said that her womb was closed. She couldn't have kids. Finally, one year, she gets so sick of it. She says, I can't do anything in my flesh. I can't do anything about this. She changes her posture completely, and she gets on her knees. And she prays a prayer that she's never prayed before, like she's never prayed, like desperation. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there in this room, but you're so desperate that you're on your hands and knees, you're praying, you don't know what's going to happen to you, you don't know what's next. Anybody ever been there before? Just desperate, man. You don't have any other choice. I remember when I was there sitting in my condo, just got home from having Tommy John surgery, desperate. I can feel the way Hannah's feeling right now. Just like, when is this going to end? When is my circumstance going to change? And she tells God, in that moment, she says, I will sacrifice the son that you give me if you give me a child. If you give me a child, I will dedicate him to the Lord. 9 months later, the prayer is answered. Hannah has her first child, and you best believe that son's name was Samuel, one of the greatest leaders. And she now has this son named Samuel, but don't you forget, she made a promise. She made a promise that she was going to dedicate that child to the Lord. And this is what I'm talking about, sacrifice right here. How easy is it for us when we get the things that we want that we forget what we're sacrificing, right? Look at all, the reason you're in this room, all of your parents, everybody has invested in your future. All of the coaches have invested in your future. They have sacrificed for you to be here. What are you going to do with that sacrifice? How are you going to treat it when everyone's trying to invest in you and everyone's trying to make you better as players and wrestlers? What are you going to do with that opportunity? Are you going to say, no, I deserve this. I'm entitled to it. Or this, am I grateful? Is this a blessing? Are you going to see it as a blessing? I hope that's the way that you see it. Listen, this isn't like, you guys got to understand, being in America isn't normal. Whatever your circumstances is, you're wealthier than 99% of the world. When I got to the Seattle Mariners, I had a kid sit in my locker room from the Dominican Republic who told me I didn't get cleats till I was 14. I was just up in Holbrook where 68% of those kids travel from the reservation an hour and a half just to get to school. Most of them go home in the dark. They don't have running water or electricity, and they live in barracks. That's 3 hours north of here. I'm just giving you a little bit of perspective. That's 3 hours north of here, and that's thousands of miles away across the sea. But you're living in Mesa, Arizona. All of you got these nice shoes. You got all these nice clothes. It may not be the clothes that you want or the shoes that everybody else has, but you got it right now. You have more than 99% of the world. That's the perspective I need you to have real quick. So Hannah sacrifices. She says, you just give me a son. You just give that thing to me. I've been desperate on my knees saying, God, you just give me baseball. You give it back to me. I promise I'll do everything for you. And Hannah's saying the same thing. She gets Samuel. And how easy would it have been for her to take Samuel and say, no, I forget about that. I forget about that. No. Samuel's mine. But what is on the other side of sacrifice? My friends, that's what I want to talk to you about today. What is on the other side of sacrifice? She says, no. I made that promise. You gave me a son. I'm going to give him to Eli. Eli was the high priest at the time. Eli was going to train up Samuel to be a great leader. And that's what Eli did. So Samuel didn't live with Hannah. The next year, Hannah goes back up the mountain to make another sacrifice to the Lord. And this time, because she made the sacrifice, on the other side of the sacrifice, giving up her firstborn child when she wasn't able to have children, on the other side of that sacrifice, she gives up Samuel. And in return, what does she get? She gets 5 more children. She gets 3 boys and 2 sons. Listen, I'm not talking about this because I don't live this. This isn't just a message that I talk about. This is something that I live. I just gave up a 6-figure job in solar so that I could be here doing this full time. I felt called that I could do this. I've been speaking for 5 years part-time. This is the first year, January 1, that I decided this is all I'm going to do now, right? I just told you in the beginning, I got that check from the Mariners. I bought a sweet truck. It was sweet to me. It wasn't fancy to anybody else, but it was mine. I owned it. It was the first thing I really bought myself. And I had this sweet truck. But I felt on my heart from the big coach upstairs, I got to release something to receive. I just sold that truck on Saturday. I'm giving up. I'm sacrificing that because I believe. And here's the thing, the reward that I'm going to have in the future, it's unknown. I don't know what's coming for me. Giving up my truck, giving up my job. I don't know what's coming. I don't know where income is coming right now. I have no idea. But I'm sacrificing and I'm believing that if I give it up, there's opportunity for things to come back to me. Just like Hannah. She gave up Samuel, she got 5 more in return. But if she never gives up Samuel, she'll never realize the 5 children that she's going to get back. I don't know what's coming up for me. I gave up my job, I gave up my truck, I don't know. That's to be determined. I hope when I come back here next year, I got a great story to tell. And it's not just me who made sacrifices either. I gave up my truck, I gave up my job, but my wife just gave up her lifestyle. My wife just gave up her lifestyle. I drove my mother-in-law's car here today because my wife's got the car at my mother-in-law's. We're talking about sacrifice. Everybody's involved. Everyone's involved in your life right now. Everybody's making sacrifices. But here's what we do. Last 2 points before we get out of here. Here's what we do with our life. We hold on to something that we think that we need to keep. But what do we miss out on when we don't sacrifice? So there's things that you're holding on to. You're holding on to something, right? But you're actually missing out on something else. You're missing out on something greater. If Hannah holds on to Samuel, she misses out on 5 more. If I don't give up my truck or my job, I miss out on, I don't know yet. That's faith. So here's what a lot of people that hold on to. These are the top 2 things that I see. Number 1, we hold on to ease and comfort. We hold on to ease and comfort. But you know what we miss out on? When we get easy, when we get our comfort, when we don't want to come here early, when we don't want to show up, when we don't want to do all the work, when we don't want to finish, that's easier, that's more comfortable for us. You miss out. You miss out on being a champion. You miss out on the habits and discipline that are going to carry with you the rest of your life. I played high school baseball 12 years ago. Then I played college baseball, then pro. All of those things, the things that I decided to work harder than everybody else, to run harder, to put in more effort. I gave up comfortability. I gave up ease. Sometimes I worked out 2 times a day. I gave that up so that I could develop habits to win at life. I didn't necessarily win every time I took the mound. You're not going to win every time that you take the mat. But what's your mindset up here going to do? What are you missing out on, the things that you're holding on to? When you say, Coach, that's too early. When it's the end of the match and you're losing. And you say, I'm going to ease off the brakes because I'm losing. Yes, it's more comfortable, it's easier, but you lose out. You lose out on grit. You lose out on tenacity. You miss out on all the blessings that come from finishing. Can y'all finish this year? Can y'all finish this year? That's what I like to hear. Ease and comfort, because I got this from John Maxwell. He's written 73 books. He's 78 years old. He's sold 35.6 million copies. He's a leadership coach. You do the math on that. 35.6 million books he's sold. It's a big number, man. It pays to be disciplined. It pays to be disciplined. And I see it in all of you. You guys are absolute miracles. You guys are 4 billion to 1. The odds that you're even in your seat right now are 4 billion to 1. The odds that you're even sitting here right now is 4 billion to 1. That's the odds that's how crazy it is for you even to be born. So whatever your circumstances is, you're adopted, foster home, 1 parent, 2 parent, with grandma and grandpa, the odds that you're even here right now are 4 billion to 1. You are an absolute miracle. You're meant to be here. You have a calling on your life. And I see it in every single one of you. I see world changers right here. Little dogs, I see world changers right here. You can do whatever you want to do. There are no limitations to your life. Y'all with me? There's no limitations to your life. There's no limitation. It doesn't have to be what you see. What you see does not have to be your ceiling. You can blow through it. You with me? That goes for you too. That goes for you too. There is no ceiling. You guys listen to Brandon Lake? You guys heard Brandon Lake before? He's got this song called Tear Off the Roof. Tear off the roof on your mind. Tear off the roof on what you think you're capable of, because you're far beyond it. You're far beyond it. But John Maxwell says he does a few things every single day. That's how he sold 35 million copies. He takes an hour to write every single day. He takes an hour to think, and he does it every day. There's not a day that he doesn't write. What do you have to do to be the greatest at what you're doing right now? That's the action step. If there's one thing that you can take from this, what do I have to do to be the greatest that I possibly can be at wrestling? Some of you are struggling with technique. You got a mirror at home, you can practice the technique. You got a dad, like whoever is with you, your brother, sister, practice that technique. There's no excuse for that. That's just like when I talk to a football team running the play. You just got to know the play. Are you guys capable of knowing the technique? Yes or no? Then know it. It's up to you. But you're operating in ease and comfort. What's one of your favorite things to do at home? With the homies, what do you like to do? You play video games? Call of Duty. Okay, what about you? You play video games? How many hours do you think you get on that a day? 1, 2, 3? 3, right? If I check my phone right now, I could tell you how much time I spend on the app, right? You could tell me how much time you spend on it. So if we don't know the technical skills, it's not for lack of time, it's for lack of attention. You crank down the video games a little bit, you crank up the technical skills. Can you do that? So ease and comfort, John Maxwell says, when I first started doing personal development and growing, he said it was very hard for the first few years. But then there was a moment in time where I figured out that life is hard. This is coming from someone that's made, you do the math, hundreds of millions of dollars selling books as the #1 leadership coach in the world. And he said, when I figured out life was gonna be hard, and I just said, life's gonna be hard, everything's gonna be difficult, that's when life got easy because he wasn't scared of it. He wasn't expecting life to be easy anymore. Life is not going to be easy. Life is going to be hard. There's 2 hards, ease and comfort. Where does that get you? Nowhere. It makes things more difficult for you. It makes things way more difficult for you when you always operate in laziness, ease, and comfort. And you miss out. If you just did the hard work, you would obtain championship mindset and character and development. Y'all with me on that? Okay, so last point before we get out of here. The second sacrifice that I think people make all the time. This is a holistic thing. People hold on to fleshly desires. People hold on to fleshly desires and they miss out on being dangerous. They miss out on being like nobody else. And what I mean by that is we're controlled by all of these things that we want. We want to stay on social media so we don't get enough sleep, right? We don't get enough sleep, so then we eat bad. We eat bad, and then that leads to people drinking. Then after you drink, sometimes people smoke. And then there's some fleshly desires with our own body that we succumb to. So we hold on to these things because we feel like we need them. We feel like we have to have these things. I couldn't give up this. I can't give up that snack. I can't give up that Coke. I can't give up that drink. I can't give up that vice. You feel like you can't give it up, but you're holding on to it so tight. You can't give up that one thing that you're doing, but you're missing out on being dangerous because everybody else in the world gives into their flesh all the time. They eat everything they want to eat. They don't go to bed at a regular time. They drink things that they don't need to be drinking. They're always looking at things they don't need to be looking at. That's most of the world. But if you would just sacrifice, you would become a dangerous individual because when you control the flesh, my friends, when you don't give in to desires all the time, you become the very best version of yourself. You become so disciplined that it's outrageous. And there's no ceiling on your life, but you have control of it. Y'all with me on that? This is something that I got a word this morning. The one who can control his flesh and overcome desires is the one you need to be afraid of. For the flesh is the most powerful vice of them all. The one who can control his flesh and overcome desires is the one you need to be afraid of. For the flesh is the most powerful vice of them all. Bro, I'm not afraid of people that constantly drink. I'm not afraid of people that aren't in shape. I'm not afraid. They're constantly giving in. They're holding on to things that they feel like they need to have. But you become an absolute dangerous individual when you don't give in. You with me on that one? You know what to do. I know you all know what to do. They tell you what to do. Everybody knows what to do. You know what to eat. You know how to sleep. If you're getting less than 5 or 6 hours of sleep right now at night, just let me tell you this. Your reaction time is slower. Your cognitive discipline is slower. The way that you perceive situations, you're freaking out more. You're going into fight or flight more all the time. Your brain, you have constant anxiety because you're going into fight or flight mode if you're not getting enough sleep. Because your neurons, your brain is tired, so you're not getting enough sleep. You know what to do, I'm telling you. You know what to do, and it's inside of you. So do you want to be dangerous or do you want to be a disaster? Do you want to be dangerous or do you want to be disaster? You have a choice. Are you going to be different or are you going to be like everybody else? And that starts with sacrificing. What do I need to give up? The question I need you to ask yourself, what do I need to give up? What am I holding on to that I need to let go of so that I can step into my destiny and become the very best, most dangerous wrestler, the best husband, the best teammate, the very best at everything that I do? That's who you need to become, but you have to make radically different decisions. Y'all feel me? Can we do that this year? What's going on, family? I got something for you, especially for you. If you want to have more freedom in your life, mentally, have that heart-mind connection, I got something for you. Tap that link. Let's go.